Okay, I'm going to break this autumn fall landscape drawing down into steps that are way easier to follow than you might imagine. So you can have a go, create this and amaze yourself. Okay, so the app that I'm using is Procreate. I don't see any reason why you couldn't use a different app on a different tablet and still follow along. Having said that, within the app Procreate, I'm using their default A4 canvas, which is 297 by 210 millimeters at 300 dpi. And then also within Procreate, the sRGB code, the one that ends in 2.1 here on the list. I am using the classic library, so if you go to the brush, back to libraries, I've not really done any tutorials using the Procreate new library. I'm using the classic one. All the brushes will be contained within the default brushes there. I've created a color palette. There is a link in the description that takes you to my Patreon page where you can download the color palette for free. Or next to the link in the description are the color codes, the hexadecimal codes that you can put into here and piece it together for yourself. If you do venture over to Patreon, you'll find exclusive content there, such as extended versions of most of these tutorials. A massive thank you to those people who do support me over there. You are the reason that I'm able to keep going as a channel, so thank you so much for that. And if you want to support in another way, well, simply subscribing, leaving comments, they really help out with the algorithm as well. So thanks for that too. And with all of that said and done, we're going to get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to rotate the canvas to the portrait orientation. Then I'm going to go to the first color on the top row, and I'm going to drag from the color circle at the top right into the canvas area, and it flood fills. I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to create a new layer, layer 2, and I'm going to go to the second color on the top row. I'm going to go to my brushes, organic, rainforest. Now I'm going to tap on the brush. I'm going to go to the stroke path and the spacing. I'm going to put it quite considerably up to about 50% and click done. I'm going to put the size well into the 3% size and 100% opacity, full strength. And then up on the left side, I'm just going to start circling this in. I want to bring it to, well, about a third of the way in on this side at the top. And then I'm going to start just bringing out, and at the edges I want it to remain a little bit more patchy, more breaks. I'm going to bring it, well, frankly, I'm going to bring it pretty much all the way down, but really it's this central area that I'm most interested in. And we'll start up in this area. I'm not going to take it all the way to the very top for the most part on this side, maybe just a few bits, but not as much. I want it to feel not completely symmetrical, but maybe more of a concentration as we come down a little bit lower. I'm going to put the brush size up 5%, just for the sake of blocking in. I'm probably going to use another brush in a moment as well, just to really shut down some of the gaps. But it's a good brush, nice textures. I'm going to use this first. Maybe these sort of connect. A few patchy bits over here. You can see they sort of bridge together there in the center, but we have a nice big open area here. Turn it back down again, 3%. As we come down here, it's just, again, a little bit patchier. Okay, so I'm going to go and switch brushes, stay on the same layer, airbrushing soft brush, maybe 10% size, and just a little bit less, maybe 90% opacity. And, well, I'm going to shut down all of the light pretty much, but it doesn't totally disappear that texture because we're only using this brush at 90%. And you notice I didn't lift it up and do it again because that would have doubled it up. I did it as one pass. Then I'm going to go to the eraser, put the eraser on the organic, try again, rainforest brush, put that back down, maybe 3%, 100% strength, opacity, and well, I can reintroduce a couple of gaps if I want to. Let some of that light through. It's never too late to just fine tune it like that. Now, admittedly, it doesn't look very much yet. We're going to go to the adjustments, the Gaussian blur, blur it in. Maybe it's about 4%, looks good. In fact, no, a little bit more. Let's say about 6% and deselect. I'm then going to create a new layer, but on the new layer, I'm going to tap on it and put on the clipping mask, which creates a little arrow, which shows us that it's linked to the layer underneath. So when we go over this with a different kind of color, you'll see it stops at the edges of the layer underneath. It doesn't go into other areas. I'm going to go actually to the 5th color on the top row. Soft brush with an airbrushing. I'm going to put it really quite big, 20% size, maybe about 60% strength for now. And just, well, I might as well just keep it simple. Do a band of that at this side and a band of this, but not take it all the way up because we haven't got much up there. Do you know, I might just do that a few more times. I put it at 60%, but actually I'm gonna have more of it, almost like it's shutting down that center area a little bit more, and then we're just left with a lighter channel. Let's go over a few times like that. And then I'm going to go to the adjustments, the Gaussian blur. I'm going to slide that across and blur it in. Probably it's about the 40%, deselect, and then I'm going to go back to layer 2 and I'm going to go in with, well, let's try the smudge tool. Put the smudge and we'll do something similar. We'll go to the organic rainforest brush. I'm going to put it quite big on this brush, in fact, 10%, and well, maybe about 60, let's go for 70% strength. And I'm just going to soften this texture in. I don't want it to be as apparent as it was. I don't want to lose that texture completely, but let's just soften that edge in like that. Then go up to our layers, top, create a new layer, and again, tap on it and put on the clipping mask. And we can keep doing that, and they all will link back to layer 2. So we're on layer 4. So on this layer, I'm going to tap on the N, and I'm going to scroll down to the Add Blend mode. And we're going to go to a really more subdued kind of orange brown, which is the 8th color on the bottom row. And again, we're still using the organic rainforest brush. It's going to be quite heavy use of this brush. It just works really well. So we will lean into it. I'm going to put it down to maybe 3% size and about 50% strength. And then, well, because we've got the clipping mask on, we can't add it anywhere here. It's only going to add it within the kind of outlines of the darker areas. And it's quite an open kind of spread out texture. And we can just use it to add layers of depth. And we're going to have the sun identified about here. And so you can imagine it's going to hit parts of the foliage that are down in this kind of channel, especially. Just a few looser bits down here, not quite as much. And then a few bits back there. Let's put it up a little bit actually, 4%. And then up into this area, perhaps there's just more affected. Remember, the sun's going to be about here, so all of this area is probably going to radiate with some kind of golden orange glow. Let's really focus a bit more of that colour in that area. We can probably, just to speed it up a little bit, maybe go to the airbrushing soft brush, maybe 10% size, 30% strength. Let's just fill that area first. Maybe even go for a really nice red colour. So let's go for the 6th colour on the middle row. We can build some of that, mix it together. I'm only pressing lightly, it's still on 30%, but it is quite strong, so I'm pressing more lightly with this colour. Just adding it into the mix there, and then let's go back to the 8th colour on the bottom row. Again, mix those together, blend them together. We don't want too much of that red. Let's subdue it. It's there, it's adding. We don't want it to over dominate, so let's just strip that back a little bit. Again, let's switch back, run back to the rainforest brush. There you go, 3% size, 50% strength. And now that we've got that kind of base of a really golden, diffuse kind of glow in there, I think that now when we're adding these little textures in there, then it gives it a context, and I think it actually enhances it. I'm quite pleased with the way that they are combining. A bit more up here again. If there's any darker bits up near the top, you can just go and subdue those back. Up here, airbrushing soft brush again, we neglected to perhaps soften those back as much as we need to. And there. Do it until really none of that muddy kind of green is left in that top area especially. Now looking at it, I can probably go back to layer 3, slide and duplicate that, and you can see it just ramps up some of that darkness. I actually quite like that effect, so we've got 2 of them, but just for the sake of reducing layers, let's tap on the top version and merge down. We're on 1 layer again. The colours might look a little bit different depending on your screen. My camera will sometimes slightly distort it. So I'm going to make an adjustment now to hopefully more accurately capture it. So don't worry, yours has been looking a little bit different. It is just due to those factors. I'm going to try and calibrate it now to adjust for that. Okay, perhaps I just pushed it a little bit closer and that's just a little bit more accurate. But don't worry, like I say, it's a little bit off. Compare your version to the still that I show at the end of the video, and you'll see that they're very much more similar. So I'm going to go to my layers and create a new layer, layer 5. We're going to go along to the 5th color on the top right, and I'm going to go in with the medium hard brush with an airbrushing. I'm going to put it maybe at 4% size, 100% opacity, and then we're going to have a section here. It's not going to be much of the actual overall composition, but it's going to be a section there that has the path and the land. So we're going to have a section where we have the base of trees and bushes. And I'm just doing a nice sort of defining border for the path where things on the ground level start to grow. So I'll just do a couple of blobs there to represent bushes on the path. And from these, we can actually grow some trees. But before that, I'm going to just put it up, maybe it's about 8%. And I can just take that off to the side. And I'll take that off to the side as well. Back down again, 4% size, and not quite from the edge, but a little bit back from it. Again, it's 100%, so you want a full strength and version of this. Take this up, and as it gets further up, perhaps we can just turn it down a little bit, slightly lower on that 4%, because branches and trees get narrower as they grow. And maybe you can have it just sort of disappear, as I showed you there, fades off into the foliage, but maybe then you can have a thinner branch. Maybe that's not thin enough. When branches grow off from the main sort of trunk, they do always grow off kind of thinner. So what percentage should we just put that at? 2%. And then we can do another one. Again, they're all at 100% strength. Zoom in. Even lower. Low on that 2%. Find a branch that just in and out of the foliage. It becomes visible, invisible as it kind of cuts through different layers. I'm going to do something similar down here. In fact, I might stay at the 2% size, 100% opacity. Let's just do some thinner ones there that are right at the very edge. Now, if you're struggling sometimes with the pressure, because sometimes people look at what I do and see that I'm not really having to make much effort to apply pressure to get the marks to appear, it could be that you need to go to the wrench, preferences, pressure and smoothing, and you can see I've created this kind of a shape. It doesn't need to be exactly the same as mine at all. Just to prove that, you can see if you reset it, it by default is that, and I find you have to press on really hard to activate the marks, so I just take it anywhere, perhaps not there. I'll just take it somewhere about there, and then somewhere about here maybe. Whoops, a bit tricky. And just create that kind of shape. So really what I'm after is a much steeper incline right at the beginning, a bit fiddly. I don't really care about the rest of it too much, but I don't want it to go from there to there. I want it to be much easier, steeper there to start creating marks. You might not need to do that. You might have already set just perfect, but I'm aware that some people struggle with that. So hopefully that's useful. Back to the side, and I'm going to turn it down even further, really low on that 2%. And then in and out of some of this foliage, we have these kind of finer branches. And again, we're probably going to obscure much of that and cover it with more foliage as well. So you don't need to worry too much. And then back up again, higher on that 2%. Some trees, some branches that cut through here, and they're probably going to be obscured. I'm more close to trees anyway, so don't agonize on them, don't spend too long on them. Just the range, back down again, 2% in and out of foliage. They're too thick actually. Let's turn that down. Let's stick to the principles I've actually laid out. So narrow it on the 2%. Back up again, maybe 5%. We'll go to this side. We'll create a nice big tree trunk here, more prominent. But again, it kind of disappears in and out of foliage. You don't always need to spend a great deal of time on a tree. I mean, frankly, I don't really feel like I need to do any branches from that. And then on this side, something similar up here. And I'm going to do something that cuts in front anyway, so I don't really care. And we can add texture. Let's go to the organic rainforest brush, 2%, top of 2% size and 100% opacity. And then we can kind of confuse that as well with extra foliage textures down here. Doesn't all need to be absolutely crispy clear. They kind of murky and blend together quite nicely. In fact, for this here, I might just make a bit more of this silhouetted tree. Just zoom out so you can see it in context a little bit. Maybe make this a really nice sort of silhouetted texture. And I'm going to add some more light pouring through here in kind of sun rays. So this will really contrast nicely with them. Let's go to the first colour on the middle row. Slightly warmer. Bring some of that in. And again, it's going to have to start changing into warmer hues. Let's go for the 10th colour. That really is quite strong, but it's fine. We'll just kind of temper that, maybe turn it down to about 50% strength opacity. And just build some of that in. It's all about layers. When you do foliage in trees, it really is just a layering process. Maybe some down here, some up through these areas as well. So we can have it cutting in front of tree trunks that we just added as well. And again, it just enhances that sense of layer and depth. I'm going to create a new layer, layer 6. Back to my colours. I'm going to use the 6th colour on the top row. Back to the airbrushing medium hard brush, 4% size, 100% opacity, and it's just a bit darker. So we can get another kind of hints of things coming through. A couple of things from this side maybe. Again, it's going to be obscured, so we don't need to worry too much. Stay on the same layer. I'm going to move along again. Much stronger colour this time. It's going to be the 7th colour on the top row. Same brush, 5% size, 100% opacity. And then from the background, sort of here, I'm going to build something in that's darker. Let's try and keep it relatively as a straight line. Doesn't matter if it has a little bit that goes off. Maybe from this side. Again, it's going to start a little bit lower down, bottom of that shape, maybe even lower. This big shape up here. Turn it down, low on that 4%. Maybe I'll turn that into a slightly darker colour in here. Turn it down again, 3%. Another nice branch that kind of coexists with it. Turn it down again, 2%. Finer branches that come off, fragment off. And we're still going to obscure quite a lot of this, so don't overly worry about it. 5% size. I might just go over this, make it a bit thicker. Again, it should get narrower as it goes up. Doesn't matter if it's a bit wobbly, that edge. You're going to have bark textures on there, presumably, anyway. Little bumps and things that grow off it. So if it ends up a little bit gnarly looking, it doesn't matter. Let's make this one a bit thicker as well, to be honest. Turn the brush size down, really low on that 2%, and I might just do some finer branches that just sort of kick off from that. Play around with the size near the bottom end of that 2%. They don't all have to be the absolute thinnest, but yeah, some branches that kick out. Same over at this side. Although, again, I'm going to do even darker trees to obscure it, so don't do too many. What I might do with that layer is tap on it and put on the alpha lock. Go back to my colours. I've used that colour. I'm going to step back just a little bit to the 6th colour. Go in with the soft brush within airbrushing. Maybe 5% size, 20% strength. We're going to have the sun coming through the centre of that. So just on one side, just maybe slightly subdue it. The side that points towards the centre, just soften that in a little bit more. Maybe these can be subject to a bit more atmosphere as well. Maybe the top even. So generally we're just creating a little bit more of a diffusion of that darkness. I want it to remain in places, but not consistently. Whoops, I've just noticed. And this is a common mistake. When you zoom in and then you work into the top, you might neglect to actually push it to the very top of the canvas. If you have done that, I've done this plenty of times. Don't worry, go to the smudge, airbrushing, hard brush, maybe 10% size, 100% opacity, and you can just go to the affected layer. Probably need to turn off the alpha lock. Push it up. It isn't really a problem. So easily fixed, like that. Again, turn on the alpha lock. We'll go back even further, the 5th colour, 10% size, 20% strength. I want that to be darker. Let's just find the right balance, because I'm going to do a really dark tree in front of them. So let's just knock them back a little bit more. I think they look better. It creates more of a gradual transition. I think I prefer that. So we'll go to our layers, create a new layer, layer 7, and we'll do just that. We'll go to the 8th color. We'll go to the hard brush. In fact, no, the medium hard brush with an airbrushing. Nice big size, so maybe 8% size, 100% opacity. And then the base of that tree is going to be even further down. We can go up here, and you can see I'm kind of obscuring things I've already done, and I don't care, it's fine. I'm not sure I'm going to do a tree trunk this side. I might just show some of the branches coming in from a tree that's off the edge of the canvas, but this one is more prominent. Let's turn it up a little bit more actually. Let's go for 10%. For the bottom areas, back down again 8%, blend it through, and then I'm going to turn it down 3%. We're going to have some branches that just kick off from there, a branch that kicks up, maybe a nice thick branch there, and then some other branches that cut up, and then we will turn it down again 2%, and maybe just have the branches coming up there, turn it down again, low on that 2%. Have a couple of branches that maybe just drift off this way, a hint of a branch that's coming off there, bits in here. You can add as many of these farm branches as you like. I don't feel inclined to do too many, just a few. Kind of communicates the idea often. We'll bring them in from this side. In fact, I'm going to change brush. I'm going to change approach. So we'll go to the inking studio pen and stay the same color. We're going to put it, well, not 100%, maybe about 20% size, 100% strength. And not quite down at the bottom, but close. Start bringing in some branches, and they just sort of twist and turn and release the pressure, and you get this finer and finer branch. It's a really useful brush for branches because you can release the pressure, sort of allow it to be a more random kind of progression, and it creates this organic kind of look. And we're going to have a whole series of branches that cut through. Maybe I can even turn it up a little bit more for some of the more substantial close to branches. So 30% size, and then maybe this can just cut up here, release the pressure for the subsequent branches that grow from it. Spend some time just getting a nice branch system, a network, just cuts through, and I want them to sort of almost create like an arch system of branches and foliage. And branches should always be thinner from the branch they grow from. So whenever you've got like a thinning here, the branch that comes off that should be thinner again, and keep going that way. Not quite a lot of branches, that's too thick. Let's turn it back down again to the 20% size. Well, thereabouts is enough. And again, we're going to overlap this with a lot of foliage, so you don't need to overly populate with branches. You need enough just to communicate the concept, the idea. So create a few. Maybe from down here, a little one that grows off. That might be enough for now. Let's go back to layer 6, tap on it and turn off the alpha lock. I'm going to go back to the 6th color on the top row, rainforest brush with an organic, 3% size, 100% opacity, and we have those trees back there. I'm going to add some foliage, not as much, but I'm going to start with the darker color lower down, and then we're going to switch pretty dramatically. Let's go to the 10th color. Let's build some layers up of this. Again, build it up. Let's close down some of the gap up here. Shut it down a little bit. We can reclaim it with the sun. It'll pierce through and kind of bleach out this, but we need to kind of shut it down to some extent with foliage high up. Let's bring it in from all sides. And just filter this down. It's starting to work quite nicely. Circle it in, get some really nice big kind of clusters and clumps in there. It'll all benefit. Let's create a layer above layer 6, but still underneath layer 7. Tap on it and put on the add blend mode. And we're also going to tap on it and put on the clipping mask, which links it now to layer 6. And we're going to go in with the 10th color. Still the organic brush, and we're still going at the same settings. Well, actually 3% size, but we're going to turn it down because it is going to be quite potent. Let's put it at 40% strength. And then we can start to bring this in, pepper it in, and especially around this area where the sun is going to be, we're building up a nice glow up in this area. We can really just concentrate it up here. And you can see the impact that that now is already bringing in without a great deal more than just a simple sort of adding that in that area. But it's quite dramatic. That's exactly what we want. Okay, let's create a new layer above that, but again, importantly, underneath layer 7. We're going to go in with some different kinds of colours this time. So I'm going to go to we're going to have a range of colours. Let's go for the 9th colour on the bottom row. Still the rainforest brush, 3% size, and I'm going to put it up 80% strength. And then we're bringing in this, and this is probably more the rear side of these near to dark silhouetted trees. And we're bringing in some nice rich colours now. We can take it right to the very top, layer it through, and yours won't be exactly the same as mine. I say this quite a lot during my tutorials, especially kind of impossible to completely recreate something that is so organic. Embrace it, it will be its own thing. Allow yours to have a life of its own. It'll be a version that's using the techniques, and that's good enough. Don't worry too much that it is different. It will be different. If I did this again, it would be different. So that's a positive. We're going to go to the top now and create a new layer, layer 7. And we're going to go to a murkier, darker colour. So we'll go to the 8th colour on the bottom row, still the rainforest brush with an organic, slightly higher on the 3%, not quite 4. Let's put it to 100% opacity. And then we're going to do some darker bits of foliage that kind of silhouette against what we've just been creating. And they will also cut in front here of the tree. Maybe turn down again, top end at 2%. And again, this is just jutting out and cutting in front of much of what we've just created in a way that I think actually really works nicely. And then, well, it's not the only colour we've got in our colour palette. We're going to use some warmer colours, more vibrant colours than even this. And we've got other colours too. So we've got this 7th colour. Let's try some of that. In fact, no, let's go back. Let's go to the darker one. Let's go to the 6th colour. It's a really stronger red. And we've got it there in our colour palette to use. So let's not be too timid. Let's put it up 4% size and tap it in. We don't want to use it as much. We definitely want to use it. A few leaves that are floating, falling. Let's tap on it and put on the alpha lock, and let's still use the rainforest brush. We use maybe the 7th colour. We can kind of merge them together a little bit without necessarily adding too much more texture. We can just kind of soften them together. Let's try the 3rd colour on the bottom row, 4% size, 100% opacity. Let's bring some of this darkness in. Again, I don't want to lose that sense of being silhouetted. Again, a real mixture of all of these building an effect. They're all kind of have their place, they're all important. Turn off the alpha lock again. 8th colour. Let's build some more of this in. So it's 100% opacity. Again, keep building in. I feel like I need more of it up here. Come down into these areas too. A lot of it's figuring out when to stop with these textures. I feel like I need more. You might make a decision that you want a little less of it, but we're aiming for similar kind of looks at least. Might create another layer and to the 3rd colour on the bottom row, create some even darker silhouettes. Again, more of this layering. Not too much of that though, and then probably just tap on that and merge down with layer 10. There you go. I do want shutting down more of that light, and we've got various places we can do that. So we're trying to decide where to do it. In fact, I might do it on layer 9, still with the rainforest brush. Maybe the 9th colour, and bring some of that orange in here. It doesn't really matter. We're definitely going to have enough space for the sun because we're going to use the add blend mode, and it will just pierce through all of this in a really nice way. So just a bit of a smattering of that. So let's do that now. Let's go to the very top, create a new layer, layer 11. We're going to tap on the N, put it to the add blend mode. Let's go to our colors. Let's use the yellow. I'm going to use the airbrushing soft brush, 10% size, 20% strength, and let's just establish where the sun is going to be. Tap it in a few times there. Maybe just switch to an orange. Let's go to the 9th colour, 20% size or so, a few taps of that. Let's go maybe the 10th colour on the top row. We're just trying out different colours, see the impact. 30% size, a few taps of that, and you can see it's really building in the glow, that luminosity. Let's turn it up again, 40% size, that works. Stay on the same layer. Let's go for the first colour on the top row. Turn it down again, 10% size. Decide where the sun's going to be and just really focus in there. A few more taps. Turn it down again, 6-7% size. Let's put it to 100% opacity. That's where the sun is going to be. And then with the first colour, soft brush still, 2% size, and we're going to turn it way down to about 5% strength opacity. And then from the sun, we're going to have an immediate kind of effect, like a lens flare kind of thing, where you've just got rays of light coming immediately out from the sun. So you need to set your center point, and then they all spread out from there. Try to be consistent with that as much as you can. Let's go to another colour. Let's go for the 10th colour on the bottom row. Let's turn it up a little bit, maybe 30% strength. And then you can just channel through there, build up some of those rays a little bit if you want to. Maybe go to the 9th colour, and then as they come further out, they get a little bit more softened, a bit more orange, maybe a couple in between as well. Okay, that's suggestive enough, but then we're going to show the effect of more diffuse kind of sun rays as well. So we're going to go underneath layer 10 and underneath layer 7 and probably underneath layer 9 as well. So we'll go to layer 8 and we'll create a layer on top of layer 8. So we've got layer 12 all the way down here. Again, tap on it and put on the add blend mode. And then once we've got the add blend mode on, we're going to go to the 6th colour on the bottom row. Soft brush with an airbrushing, 5% size and only 10% strength, and then again radiating from the sun in lines coming down. We'll aim for the base of the tree there, for example. Do it a few times, and then, well, more, perhaps hitting the center of the path area. You can have a whole section there that's illuminated. Let's go over that a few times. Maybe set the boundaries. You can have a line coming down for this side of the path, and then you have all of the kind of fanning rays within that band as well. Maybe another one over here, just a little bit. Broaden that up. You can see they all radiate back to the source, to the sun. Makes sense. You can have it divided. You can still see some of the individual kind of rays. That's what happens when sun goes through foliage. You get bits that come through more forcefully, and you'll see a line where it has come through more easily. With that whole layer, we're going to go to the adjustments, the Gaussian blur, and blur it in a bit to about 10%, and it just softens it in so it's not too clumsy looking. Okay, we'll come back to the upper area perhaps a little later, but we've got the ground level to address, so let's deal with that. Let's go to the top and create a new layer up there, layer 13. And then on this layer, with the 6th colour on the bottom row, soft brush with an airbrushing, low on that 2% size and 10% opacity, just above where those two bumps or blobs were kind of first created. Just some horizontal dashes. Sun's just dappling back there on the ground in places between those two. Then 5th colour, in the middle row, maybe just some green at the edges. We're going to have a path that's more of this kind of cream colour, but the edges are going to have a bit more grass, just a little bit of that green. Then we're going to have a section perhaps is more shadow. Perhaps we can go to the, well, let's try this grey colour, 7th colour. And we're going to have some of this coming through. Again, shadow on the ground in places. Again, keep it kind of random. Back to the 6th colour. And then on the other side of that, we're going to have more of this light coming through, dappling on the ground in places. That really sets the sun back there a little bit more, which is quite a nice effect. Now I'm going to start putting some darker tones in here. I'm going to go to, well, let's go for the 10th colour on the middle row. Let's go for the organic rainforest brush, 4% size, 100% opacity. And well, at the base of this tree, we're going to have some foliage that really comes down in the foreground, and maybe just some over here a little bit as well, not as much, but this bit certainly comes further down towards us, and it can be a little bit down here at the very bottom as well. Let's go for the 3rd colour on the bottom row. Some nice ready orange colours coming through. Again, some of that in the shadow here. Build that up. Pile some of those leaves and debris on the path. Let's go to a nice green colour. Let's go for 1st colour on the middle row. Add some green in the shadow. Go up here, 6th colour. Get some greens in there as well, in the shadow areas. I'm going to create a new layer, layer 14. And well, we're going to have some more vibrant colours. So let's go for 3rd colour on the middle row. I'm going to stay with the rainforest brush, 3% size, maybe 70% strength. And from here, we're going to have a path, a channel of like a grass verge that's cutting through, coming down diagonally, getting broader and thicker as it comes more towards us. And well, we're going to have little bits that just stick out over here as well. A little bit here maybe, a little bit back there. In places it's just visible. Just where the sunlight is catching the edges of things. But yeah, as it comes more towards this corner, you certainly get a thicker band of it. Just up here as well, obscuring some of that black we created. The sun is going to come down and really impact that edge. A nice little bit here as well. I've already got it back there, so that's enough. Let's go to this nice red colour, 6th colour on the middle row. And it's a super vibrant colour. That's nice. Let's bring it up. Again, we've got a nice channel of this colour. Got it on the 3% size. It's a bit too strong, honestly, but we can subdue it. Bring it up. And some of it is kind of here as well. Let's go maybe to the 9th colour. Bottom row, and amongst some of that red, we can just add a few more light orange touches. Let's go to the 7th colour. And again, just like we're layering up with the tree foliage, we're layering up on the ground as well. It's an important part of the process. And then, well, maybe we go back to layer 13 now. We can go in with some duller colours for the path. So let's go for the 4th colour. With the same brush, we can just kind of bridge the gap between those two sections with this, well, more of a brown cream colours just for the path that goes underneath the leaves. And then we can use the 5th colour. Maybe there's a section to this path that's just a bit more warm. A bit more sunlight affecting. And we'll add more shadows to this in a moment, but we're just ramping up the sun, the daylight. Let's go to the 6th colour. Again, pepper that in. Let's turn that down. 2%. We'll bring that across. Much like we had patches back there. Now we're doing it with this brush, lower on that 2%. Just in patchy kind of bands that are cut across. We're starting to get the kind of overall ground texture, but it needs some refinement. Back up to layer 4. Let's create a new layer for this. Let's go in with a darker colour. Let's go to the 2nd colour on the bottom row, and we'll go to the airbrushing soft brush. 3% size, let's put it up to maybe 30% strength. Actually, no, a bit stronger, 50% strength. And then this is going to be used now to just really build in this kind of shadow, especially in the foreground. That's quickly going to start putting in some of that necessary kind of more realism and dramatic contrast. So let's put some shadow in here, a few more dapples in here, and it all connects up to the shadow part over on this side. Connect it through. We'll turn it down perhaps on the strength to 30%, and then, well, there's going to be more sections back here. Let's turn it down in size as well. 2%. There's going to be more areas here. Again, trees that just cast a shadow across. And it starts to merge up there with, we've got shadows in the distance as well. Turn it up. 3%. Let's bring it down here. Narrow. We've got a vibrant green here. Let's just reduce it though. We want it to be there, but we don't want it to be, we don't want too much of it. The more we reduce it down, the more it creates the power of that contrast. It's often the way with these kind of images. It's the contrasting light and dark together that makes the power of the image. So bring some of that darkness down here at the edge too. Just circle it in, connect them together so we've got the same level of strength, of darkness. If it's here, then it makes sense that it's over here as well. Not that it's up there, but if it's at the same level here, it should be the same level of darkness, same strength, same darkness of tone. And you can see now that's bringing through a kind of a sense of connection and context. This is too vibrant, so let's deal with that. Let's go to a slightly more subdued color. Let's go for the 10th color on the top row. And it's going to be done with layers, this. So let's go to the organic rainforest brush. 2% size, 70% strength. And then within that, bringing in some of this slightly more orangey color, which, let's look at that. It closely resembles now the colors that we've already used, and that is what's going to make sense of this image. So bring this through, connect the different areas together. We don't need awful lot of refinement of those textures, really. It's more about creating the overall look. Maybe in the shadow areas, we need some more texture, but we don't want to go in too strong with that. You know, we could probably go to the 4th color. Blend that through. Stay with this color. Maybe we'll bring it into other areas too. A few touches in the shadows. Go to the top layer again. Let's go to a bit more control. Airbrushing, soft brush. 1st color on the bottom row. 2% size. Maybe 40% strength. And we can just tap in some little shadows for tufts on the ground. Be a bit more controlled. Pepper them through. All an important part of this layering. Not too much there. I might just go back to layer 14, go on the adjustments, the Gaussian blur, and I feel like I just want to blur it slightly. A little bit too textured. I'm going to blur it across to maybe 2%, and then let's just think about our layers. Some of them are just a little bit too crispy, so let's go back to layer 13, adjustments, Gaussian blur, 2%. Find anything that you think is too crispy. The top one, layer 15, adjustments, Gaussian blur, and we're getting there, maybe about 3% on that one. And just a little bit of soft blurring of things together does help. I'm going to take layer 15, tapping it and merge down. Take layer 14, tapping it and merge down. So we've got them all in one layer. I'm going to go in with the smudge. I'm going to put the smudge to the soft brush with an airbrushing. 3% size, maybe 40% strength. And well, we can use this now to just kind of soften them together a little bit. Unify some of these areas, make it look a bit more coherent in places. Could even go to something like the painting, turpentine brush, 10% size, 30% strength. And well, we can use this to kind of blend things together a little bit. We don't want to be over the top, but a little bit of that actually really helps bind and put images together in a way that works. Create a layer above that, tap on the N and put the add blend mode on. 10th color, top row, soft brush with an airbrushing, 2% size, 20% strength. I'm just going to use it now to really punctuate, really push some of that sunlight in the distance. I think that is going to be what really brings in some of that light into our scene, and we can bring it forwards too in areas. Just having it kind of really piercing through and impacting on the ground. You can see the impact that that has. Maybe turn it down 10% as it gets closer to us. Just for little pockets. The sun is piercing through. I think that really works. Switch to a green. 3rd color. Let's put it up again, 20% opacity. Just in places. Push that green. Tap it in. Doesn't need to be overly detailed. I think I'd like to go back to layer 10 slide and duplicate it. It ramps up that foliage, but I also want to soften it. So the top version, I'm going to go to the adjustments, the Gaussian blur, zoom in so you can see it, and just blur that in to about 5%. And I like the way that you've got layers of blur and you've got crispier layers, and it also just brings some of that different kind of aesthetic together in a way that I really find satisfying. Okay, I'm going to leave this tutorial here at this point. I might push it a little bit further over at Patreon. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you back here soon. Another time, don't forget to hit subscribe. Bye for now.